Hey everybody. What is up? Hi everyone. I'm not going to go through all the names here because I have some guests, but I just want to say hello to everyone. And I am today Janette Mayo. This is Holly Mayo's mom. She's going to join us. She is going to tell us a little about her truth from her perspective. And we're going to share some receipts and correct some misinformation that's been put out there. And Tia from Decipher is joining me as well. If you don't know Decipher Podcast, then what are you doing? Make sure you check them out too. She's been covering this with me pretty much throughout this whole case. So I was like, I need Tia up here with me.
Aww. Well, it's an honor to be here with Jan and you. So I just appreciate it.
Hi, Janette. How are you?
I've been better, but I'm here.
We got
She
you.
looks gorgeous, guys. And she's actually wearing... I almost spilled my drink. She's actually wearing her daughter's dress, and it is beautiful. And we love it. And while... I wanted to show everybody because I made a little photo collage of her grandbabies and her daughter. And she has these. You want to show your necklaces now? Yeah. These are the necklaces she wears around her neck. They are all urns for her daughter and her grandchildren. For Tiffany, she has a little cow because Tiffany loved cows and cow print stuff. And Michael she has an Xbox controller for, and I just thought they're so adorable. What is Riley's?
Riley is an infinity circle with the tree of life because it falls with her artistic nature.
Yes, she was very into like arts and crafts.
Yes,
and so was her mom. And then Michael, or I said Michael, so Holly's.
Hers is a heart with the tree of life because from the minute she was born, she was my world.
Oh,
of course she was.
You're gonna get me emotional already. But she is. And please let me just say this. Though I respect everyone's opinions, please be nice in chat. Please don't say anything disrespectful, and please understand this woman is grieving. She lost a big part of her family. And it's a rough road for her because people are giving her a lot of grief, and nobody wants to hear anything bad about their family or their kids. She's hurting, so maybe y'all can give her some hearts in the chat to lift her up.
That would be so nice. Also, she's a victim. Like, she is a victim. And the one thing that I said in our post when I was sharing yours is that, the one thing in working in true crime, the first rule is no victim bashing ever. I don't care who you are, what they've done. There is no victim bashing. And it seems to be okay in this case. And it's not okay. It's not okay at all. And I'm here to have anyone's back who needs their, I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's do this because there's nothing better than putting facts out to put the flame of, rumor and innuendo to rest.
And I think people need to understand too is that Holly was an adult. She could make her own decisions. And what she was doing was legal. What she, being married to Jesse was legal. There was nothing that Janet could really do about it. So, I know people are angry, but, Janet is just not to blame in this. You know what I mean? Like, what you'll hear from her and, her side or whatever. And you'll understand that they really did everything that they could. So, is there anything you want to say, Jan, before we start going through our points of interest?
Yes, my main goal here is to prevent this from happening to anybody else's daughter and grandchildren or their grandchildren, period. This needs to be addressed and it needs to be stopped. New legislation and new laws need to be put in place to prevent people like him from ever getting out, ever talking to anybody. They should never have been able to allow to talk. Honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they need to change the laws, really.
Yes.
You would be shocked what they can do in Oklahoma. Like, they have SOs. I'm going to say SOs so we don't have to say the whole word, but you know what I'm talking about. I believe they can go to schools as long as they're married and it's their child, and they have them, at events and things like that. And if you are married to an SO, your kids, if they're not their kids can be around them if they're married, and that's just, the law. So unfortunately, it needs to be changed for sure.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I did see that. But all right, so I guess we'll start off with your son. You want to go over that part? I mean, I think that one was we'll start from like the beginning timeline that I can get.
Yeah.
So
my son was born November 1st, 1986. I did not meet Michael Anthony Mayo until late January of 1987, and we started dating. So he is not Michael's biological father.
So in a nutshell, there's another podcast that went and said that Jan's son, her son that she gave birth to, in the hospital, had the baby, all that, was not her son, and that it was Michael's son with another woman, and that's not true. It's actually
he was born at Thomason General Hospital, El Paso, Texas, at 7:33 a.m.
Yeah, so it's actually her son and not Michael's son, and she just wants to show receipts so people know that it's misinformation. And even though it might seem like a big deal to people, it is a big deal to her because it's her child, and they're saying it's not her child. You know what I mean? So I would be a little. So let me share my screen real quick so I can show you. I don't think there's. Hold on a minute. Is the address on the child support paper still your address? Do you want me to?
You can put the address. That is not my address at this time.
Okay. All right. Let me share it real quick. So she didn't have his birth certificate because her son actually has it, but she did have a paper for child support that shows, that she's his parent, and she also has his immunization records that I can show. But just so you guys know, it's her son, not, well, her ex-husband's son, but we don't need to go into all that. But it's technically her son with who she was with before, Michael. Okay. Do you want me to show the immunization ones too, or do you think
it's up to you? If they want more proof, they can have more proof. I don't care. I just want to get the truth out there and squash all the lies. There's too many lies and rumors being put out there.
Yeah. So his last name is May.
Yes.
Not Mayo.
Yes.
Which, it's obviously close, so maybe that's where the confusion was, but you know,
I did
just
go
so.
from Janette Mayo or Janette May to Janette Mayo. Yes.
Yeah, you just added an O on the end, right?
Yes. Yes. I have no problem with that. That's the God's honest truth. And that's all I want to tell is the truth.
Yep. And I completely understand that. So all right, so let me see. I'm going down the list of things that we need to trying to do this in order. Okay, Riley. Riley was not born in Texas, right?
No, she was born in Harrison, Arkansas.
Sorry. All right, so they said Riley was born in Texas. Riley was not born in Texas. I don't know if we sent anything for that, but
I
she
sent
would
you
know.
her birth certificate.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let me get that. Hold on. Do you want me to show? Would you like me to show? Do you want me to show the pictures now? You want me to show the little collage?
That's fine. That's fine.
While I get this up, I made like a little collage. She sent me some pictures of her family, and I made like a little collage. And I just want to, I really just want to point out, that I think a lot of people get caught up in these cases and, like investigating them and stuff. And they kind of like forget that you kind of like lose sight of the fact that these are real people, you know what I mean? And they're going through, hard times. And this is, and you don't really think of that. So I just wanted to kind of like, humanize this the best way that I could. And I really thought, sharing some photos too would be. So sorry if they're a little, hold on. I didn't have time to put music behind it, or I would have put a really cute song behind it. So this is Holly's graduation. This is Michael James. Oh, why did it stop on there? That's Michael James as a baby.
God, they're cute.
This is Riley and Michael James, right?
Yes.
Oh. This is Tiff and Joe.
Yep.
Right? Is this when they snuck? Oh no, she looks a little older then. This isn't when they snuck her into see, was it?
No. She looked more like the little picture right there, the baby. That's about what she looked like when she came
on the
to
left.
see me.
Yeah. And then, so this is Tiffy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know why it keeps going in and out. This is one of the last photos taken of them all. I love this photo too.
That's my husband's favorite. I took it from him so I could blow it up so I could have an 8x10 of it. Because they were happy, they were smiling. Picture. And that was taken on the property in Henryetta.
I love this
Not
one.
far from where they were found.
Oh. Okay. Let me stop that. I need to get right. I'll bring up Riley's birth certificate while we're talking about something else. I'll bring it up, but I don't have that saved yet. So.
Okay, that's fine.
If we still want to go over the pictures, I know one of the things that was they were talking about. I'm trying to figure out how I should put this in order. I guess we'll just go to Joe. Do you know how Joe and Holly met?
Yes. Holly's friend Amanda was friends with Joe and Joe's family. Holly started dating Joe's brother Dustin first. They didn't get along so well. They dated for 1 week. She met Joe, and it was just instant karma.
And actually, before we continue on with Joe, did you want to talk about the state line thing? No? Okay. We'll let that go. All right. We'll continue with Joe then. So they met.
Yes.
And Tiffy is their kid between them.
Yes. Tiffy is Joe's. Holly
Okay.
and Joe got together when she was pregnant with Michael James. She was about 4 months, maybe 5 months pregnant. He was there the rest of her pregnancy, was there in the delivery room when Michael James was born. Right after he got, right after that, he had to go to AIT, not basic training as they put on the other podcast.
Uh-huh.
He asked Holly to go ahead and marry him so that Holly, Michael, and Riley would be covered under his insurance because they would have gotten full military benefits while he was active duty. So they got married at a justice of the peace, which I have those photos. I just couldn't find them at the moment. And then later they did a bigger wedding in Eureka Springs at the Crescent Hotel, where she had
Is he in uniform? I think I actually have those.
I have those photos as well. It was freezing, but we had the
freezing.
Yeah.
And if you want me to share anything later, I can always put it on like my community post. I can make like a collage on there too. So if you want to show anything else. And then they lived in Westville.
They actually lived in Fayetteville for several years before they moved to Westville. They did not move to Westville until Riley was going into 2nd grade and Michael was going into 1st grade. And then Tippy started Head Start at that same time in Westville, where they stayed until the 2021-22 school year when they moved to Henryetta and started school there. And I've gone to the school here in Westville and gotten a paper showing that they were enrolled in the school. I had them not put Holly's address on it because there's a family living in that house now and they don't need any harassment.
I actually have that too, and I can say that there is a photo. I can share that as well. Do you want me to share that?
Please do, because that debunks everyone's theory that they were in school in Henryetta when they were not.
Okay.
Not until 2 years ago. They would have finished their 2nd year the week after they were murdered.
Okay. All right. Let me pull it up real quick and I'll show it. And you said it's redacted already before you shared it, right?
Yeah, I had them remove the address so that Holly's address was not on there.
Perfect. Because I took it right off where you shared it, so it should be.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Let me share it right now. So y'all can see.
And it has the school seal on it. Which I got told that was a lie, which it's not.
And so also there's several like incidents kind of being smushed into one incident. Do you want to talk about Westville?
Yes, there was an incident in Westville between Riley and Joe that was reported to DHS. They went through counseling. The kids were placed in Michael's custody, which he had no felonies, or he would not have been placed in there. He would not have had them. I've checked that out. That incident, with everything that went on, took over a year before Holly and Joe actually being able to be around the kids full time. There for a year, he had to have supervised visits. So if anytime he came to the house, Michael or I had to be with him and had to walk with him everywhere he went. He was not allowed to be alone with any of the children. He had to go to
this was completely different.
Yes.
This was completely different than when Riley got pulled out of school. It's a completely different
completely
scenario. Different. And we'll get to that when we get there. But in a nutshell, there was just an incident. Her ex-husband got custody. they're still, very like her and her ex-husband are still very close, and
Yes.
he got custody, and then they did parenting classes and whatever they had to do, and then they got the kids back.
Yes.
And then so Joe and Holly ended up separating,
Yes.
and they were separated for some time. Joe got a girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Holly moved on with
Yes.
Jesse.
Yes.
And you had no idea. Did you know that they were communicating before?
No.
Okay.
I had no idea.
So
And
you didn't find out until she started dating them. I believe
Yeah.
Lynn even said something along the lines
I
of like,
did not know anything about Jesse until they were moving in together in Henryetta, which I have found out that was his suggestion because it was closer to his mother and further away from us, so that we did not find out about him and what he was up to.
gotcha. So you didn't know. I know that I think you guys were even saying that like you were wondering if she had a boyfriend, but you didn't
Yes.
know yet, and then you guys
Yeah.
finally found out. And then it was his idea to move to that property.
Yes.
Okay, so, and I know they were saying that you lived at that house before or something like that. That's
Yeah,
just a flat out lie.
that's a complete farce. It's a complete lie. I have never lived in Henryetta. My daughter has never lived in Henryetta. My younger daughter, excuse me. We have lived in Fayetteville, Arkansas for over 10 years. I moved to Westville 7 years ago, where I'm purchasing my home, which my grandchildren were in my home, which was right across the street from the Westville school. So I could walk across the street, get them from school. They could sit at my house until Holly and Joe came home from work.
Gotcha. And then, so I think Jesse got out in what, was it like October of
October of 2020.
2020?
Yes.
And then Holly gets pregnant.
Holly did not get pregnant with his baby until 2021.
2021.
And it was twins, not, she was pregnant twice. I'm not going to lie. Both sets were twins. The first set she lost after 8 weeks. She found out just about Mother's Day. Lost both sets of twins about Father's Day, both times. In 2021 and 2022.
Okay. So I have the sonogram too, so we can show you guys. Now, did you know of any registry that Holly had?
No, there was no registry that Holly had. She wasn't far enough along to set up a registry. She personally had gone to Amazon and purchased a few things. So maybe she set a registry up for her to purchase from, but that would be it. There was no registry.
A lot of people do that, like a little wish list or something.
Yes.
And then I have the other one. Hold on a minute.
Neither one of her pregnancies with him was a single baby. They were both twins. And we've determined that her progesterone levels were too low. At a certain point in the pregnancy, if your progesterone is too low, you miscarry. And that's what happened both times.
So someone asked if they were pen pals previously, and we have found out that they were, but she didn't know. Jan didn't know of any of this until she started.
I knew about James, and that was it. I went with her to go see James. I stayed at the hotel in Norman, Oklahoma, when she went down to see James. That was the only time she went to go see James. And shortly afterwards, apparently, Jesse started writing her. I don't know the full story. I was not privy to that, and I'm not going to lie. I don't know for sure when they started talking. Just all I know is hearsay, and I will not fact hearsay.
Yeah, exactly. and there's nothing you can do if you didn't know. You weren't.
Hey, Kate, can I jump in really quick? Because I was looking at some of the questions that we had talked about earlier. And one of the things I want to say was some of the questions that are being posed to Jan in this Facebook group, first of all, are none of anyone's damn business. They're none of anyone's business. And she is under zero obligation to answer any question to the general public, to anybody, to her family, she does not have to do this. And I'm reading through some of the questions, and I'm literally going through the roof over here going, I can't imagine asking a person who lost 4 people in their family some of these questions. And I just want to commend Jan for being here again and for standing tall and telling the truth, not your truth, because you're providing facts. You're telling the truth.
Yeah.
And that is so important. I don't want to hear any more of this. This is my truth, your truth. This is the truth. We're slamming the facts down. So this other podcast can shut up and people can stop the bullying and the bullshit. There's certain things that Jan's not going to know. As a mom, you're not going to know certain things, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay. And she should not answer questions, and she probably shouldn't know the things that some of the people are asking. But we all know that there was a handgun purchased in Holly's name.
Holly.
Nobody knows who was there and why it was done. So that can all be put to rest. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no reason to go into the handgun anymore because, unfortunately, no one knows. We weren't there, and it was done legally.
Yeah, until I can get proof that she did not purchase it, because the sheriff's department point blank told me in a interrogation room, not a witness room, that my daughter purchased that gun. And I said, okay, where is the proof? Where is the signature card showing her signature? Where is the video clip showing the person that purchased the gun? They will not and won't provide me any of that. The purchasing name was Holly McFadden. Her name up until February 24th of this year was still Holly Guess, not McFadden. I have both her driver's licenses to prove it, and I have provided them.
Yeah.
So, and I know my daughter's signature. She did not write her O like an O. It looks more like an A.
Oh, we have her handwriting. It's very girly. It's very pretty. She
has written that way since she was 6 years old, when she decided she didn't like how the cursive O looked.
Oh. Well, I just wanted to jump in with that one because that one, that there's certain things that people are asking that how the hell would you know? Yeah. How would you know?
Holly hated guns. Joe had a bunch of guns, and Holly made him get rid of all of his guns because somebody she knew, their son got shot with a gun that they owned, and Holly was like, nope, they're gone. I don't want that to happen to my children. So
yeah, Holly was actually very anti-gun, right?
Yes, and she would not have purchased a gun knowing he was going to be around it, because she knew, because my brother is a felon and he cannot be around a gun. So she knew point blank that he could not be around a gun.
Yeah.
So she would not have purchased a gun for him. So that rumor can be put to squashed because it's not true.
Yeah. So can you go to Oklahoma and purchase a gun and not use your own? I have no idea.
No,
maybe
you have to
provide something.
You have to provide a photo ID with your name and your address. They take a picture of that ID and staple it to the paperwork that goes to ATF, and then on for the investigation. She never purchased it. They won't provide me with any of that because they know I can squash it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was not talked to like a family member. I was put in an interrogation room with a camera on me so they could get my responses on tape.
So you're on
And
record.
then,
That's not how you treat a family of a victim.
I agree.
yeah. And also, so I think this is a big thing too, and there was some confusion. All right, so there's been a lot of confusion on when Jan actually found out that Jesse was an SO, and I believe you found out by someone at your husband's work. They found him.
Yes, my husband was looking for a person that he worked with. He moved to Henryetta to be close to the kids in September. And I have recently found out and will rebut. I did find out in late January that he was a sex offender. Now, when I stated my statement the first time, I'm sorry. I was literally under complete duress. I had just found out that my daughter and my grandchildren were murdered. So if I got my dates wrong, I'm sorry. It was late January.
She thought it was in March, but I will say, in her defense, that when I talked to Lynn said the same thing. All right, so basically, they had known that he was because when they found out, they were able to narrow down the dates because there was a call made by the family to the sheriff's department.
Yeah, Oakville Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, to basically say this. When they found out, they were like, "Oh my gosh, they took Holly out to dinner to tell her, right? You guys took Holly out to dinner."
My husband took her out. He met with Holly and Tiffany, and Holly told him point blank, "I already met with the original victim, and she said it was a misunderstanding." Now, I cannot prove who that person is, but I have a sneaking suspicion as to who it is. I'm not going to name names until the OSBI can actually prove who it really is.
But you were told by Holly that somebody told her that it was a bunch of crap.
Yes,
Holly was
told that they were both high on drugs. They were both 19. They started having intercourse. She decided she didn't want to do it anymore, and he wouldn't stop. Yes, that would be rape. That would be rape. Once you say no and you say stop and they don't, that becomes rape. I have no qualms with that.
So in a nutshell, they found out, and Lynn, her sister-in-law, called Henryetta and the Okoboji County Sheriff and said, like, "Hey, like, this ain't cool. He's living with the kids. They tried to do something."
Hold on, wait a minute. I'm like Tiffany, where do you get off? How do you know more than the family knows? What do you mean enjoy your life? How do you know more than the family knows?
Well, Lynn actually said to me she was shocked when they found out that the call was actually January 31st, because she was like, I could have sworn that it was later, but I guess it was then. So in Janette's defense, she probably thought it was later than it was, but when you line it up with when the call was, it was in January. But I mean, honestly, what does a month change? Like, I don't know. I don't really see a difference in what does a month change if you knew in the end of you knew February, or if you knew in March. I mean, what
was
difference
nothing
does it
we could do. I mean, he was legally
completely
allowed
legal
to be there. And
they were trying to figure out what they could do.
Yeah.
But legally, if she married him, there was really nothing that she could do. She lived far away. Like,
no, you were in line with what the law was allowing you to deal with.
Yeah, and it's not her job. It's the police department to notify anyone nearby, to notify the school. It's not her job to do that.
And they dropped the ball.
they dropped the ball. They did. And legally, there was nothing they could do. So
I mean,
Jen knew that Lynn made the call, and the information was out there. And Lynn said it on the interview, you know, that she made the call. And really, there's a month difference. She really thought it was in March, but then, you know, when we were talking to her, we're like, well, the call was in there, so it would have had to be then. And she was like, oh, well, you know, I could have got it mixed up. So, you know, it's a month difference. I don't know what difference it makes, really.
But everything that was going on at the time, there was family drama that we were trying to squash and deal with. So everything got jumbled. And again, I apologize for getting my dates wrong on that. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong.
Yeah. And that's fine. There was a lot going on. So, you know.
It's been if you're still, I mean, it's been 3 months. Like, I don't know how you have your days correct, let alone anything else. So
I don't. I really don't.
Hold some grace for, you know what I mean? It just really bothers me that people, the audacity of people questioning a victim. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And Lynn has never denied making the call. She told National News she did.
Yeah.
They were very upset about it, and they tried to do what they could. But honestly, legally, you know, what can you do other than have a sit down with your daughter and try and call and see? I mean, it's legal, sadly, but that's just...
Nothing they did was illegal other than the fact that he was in that house for a year without being registered to that address. And then shortly after we found him, his name was no longer on the SO. It was removed.
It was not on the local one for sure. I know that.
It was removed 2 weeks after we found out. Because I tried to look it up to show my coworker at work. And it wasn't there.
Do you want to say why Holly and Cody split up? Do you want to talk about that? Or?
Okay. Holly and Cody split up because, one, they were exceedingly young. Holly had just gotten pregnant with Michael James on Riley's birthday. I know because Michael and I were staying at the apartment after the party. So, yes, they split up because they were too young. It was too much trouble. Holly was working 2 jobs and going to school full time to be a cosmetologist. Riley was not living at the house with them. Riley was living with Michael and I in our place across town. Holly would come see her daughter when she had time. It was just easier for us to take care of her.
Yeah.
Which we had done since she was born, because that was one of our rules, was we didn't care if you were still in school. You were going to finish school and then take care of your child. Holly graduated high school with honors. So that squashes their statement she never graduated school. Holly graduated high school at Valley Springs High School in Valley Springs, Arkansas. One of the leading schools in the state.
And I also wanted to go over for Lynn. They brought up Lynn's dad and said that he had passed in, was it England?
Yes, he died at the Veterans Hospital in Oklahoma City. He is buried at a cemetery directly outside of Fort Lawton, Oklahoma. Yes.
And then she sent me these pictures so you can see her sitting at the hospital with him at the VA.
Yes, my husband and I went the night before he died so he could say goodbye to his dad. And his dad sat straight up, basically from a coma, and said, "Michael, I love you. I want you to know I love you." Then he laid back down and he never spoke another word.
So we got that cleared up. Let me see.
I'm going through the list as well.
I'm going through my list. try and find if I miss anything. Did you know of Jesse running off for weeks at a time?
He
and
never went off weeks at a time. The only time he was gone was when he and Holly got into a big fight and he went to his mother's for 3 days. He never was gone more than that. He had a job on the phone that he literally had to be in front of his computer, which was the laundry room in Holly and his house.
Gotcha. And then you guys, you didn't find out till about like what, Christmas time that she was married, right? You didn't know?
I did not know she was married to him. When we thought they were getting married was December 24th of this past year of 2022. We did a reception at the Christmas party for their wedding. I did not find out that they had gotten married before that until after they were murdered.
Okay. And then I wanted to bring up also all right, so a lot of people were getting the Westville incident and Riley getting pulled out of school, thinking it was one complete incident. Really, it was two separate incidents.
Yes.
Westville was the incident, the DHS incident, and then Riley getting pulled out of school was a completely different incident at a different school at Henryetta, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to explain that?
Yes. Riley was 16, a sophomore in school. A classmate at school, a 19-year-old boy, went and got her a cell phone and said, "Hey, send me pictures of yourself, nude pictures of yourself." Holly found the phone and was going to go take it to the police, and Jesse talked her out of it. Their solution was pull Riley out of the classroom and let her do virtual schooling for the rest of the year. The rumor that Riley was made to sleep in Holly's room is a lie. That window of her bedroom was nailed shut from before Holly rented the house. Riley slept in her own room, in her own bed. Her room was a mess, but what teenage girl at that age doesn't? She turned 17
she shared a room with
before
Tiffany.
She was murdered.
And she shared a room with Tiffany.
Yes, her and Tippy had beds, one on one side of the room, one on the other. Holly went in and decorated the room. She put batting material on the ceiling with little lights in it so that it make it look like clouds with lights. She put things up on the wall for the girls to put their jewelry and their makeup brushes, their pencils, art supplies. She put up shelves for each girl so they could have their own personal space in the room.
And Michael also had his own room, and Michael's windows were not nailed down at all.
Open. We opened those windows to air the house out when we went in on Saturday.
Yeah, I even saw pictures, and they were definitely not nailed down. So that's out of the way. Did you ever say that people couldn't go and enter the house or something?
No, I never told the landlord that. He was calling, harassing me. When are you going to come get the stuff out? He started calling me Thursday night. I left the Okmulgee Sheriff's Department after that rude interview to go directly to the funeral home in Bentonville, Arkansas, to be able to make funeral arrangements for my daughter and my grandchildren so we could pick out Tippy's casket because Joe did not want Tippy cremated. And then we had Holly, Michael, and Riley cremated. And it took almost 2 weeks to get the paperwork back to be able to cremate Holly.
And now the landlord was threatening to throw everything out, right? If you guys didn't get out of there.
I was at the bank cashing a check so I could rent a U-Haul for him to be calling and telling me, you have to get everything out by Sunday night or I'm going to throw everything in a dumpster Monday morning. So we weren't given time to process. I had not buried my family yet. I still didn't even have the paperwork for Holly yet.
And y'all were also being told that it wasn't an active crime scene at that point, right?
The sheriff's department, when I went on Thursday, told me point blank, if the landlord says you can go in, it's not an active crime scene, you can go in. But before we were allowed to go in, other people had already been in the home with video cameras on 4 separate occasions and even had a film crew come in with them. And then they're trying to say that we took evidence out of that house? I don't think so.
Oh, yeah.
Everything
I know that
was documented by OSBI.
When OSBI took over, they took everything, whatever they did pack up, OSBI took and marked it all down and took it out of their cars and everything. Yeah. So there was nothing that was taken away, and there was people in there before even they took stuff out, apparently.
As the lady from OSBI told me, this is not an active crime scene until I walk through that gate. And I will not walk through that gate until I have my warrant. And that took her 4 hours. We had to sit outside the house for 4 hours.
Yeah. Oh, here's another thing. Also, if anyone is encouraging anyone to tell people or put out publicly evidence or anything like that, it is so important not to, because if there is any other people involved in this crime, and any more information gets leaked, that information could potentially get thrown out. You know what I mean? Get just like inadmissible in court, and they need all the evidence they can get, really, to if there is other people involved.
Yeah, the other people that are trying to get this done are people that don't want this out there. They don't want the truth. They want to know only the lies and keep those lies going. That's why I'm on here, is to make it straight and to set the record straight.
And then another thing I wanted to go over is I know it was mentioned on another thing that the padlocks and the chains were just like not there. They were there. They were in a bag.
They were there with receipts.
And with the receipt. This is just my theory. I believe there was extra because I think he planned to invite more people there, and they didn't come.
He had Tiffy call all of her friends.
Yeah,
and let me
I just think they were not used. But there was some new padlocks and chains. Yes. The ones in the kitchen, I think, were newer, or they at least look newer in the photos. So
can I say one thing about that real quick? The eye hook that eye bolt that was in the kitchen counter was not actually ever used, because it was never screwed in, because when you put anything screwed into a piece of wood, it's going to leave groove marks. That hole was smooth as butter. I know, because I personally put my fingers in it to check for groove marks. That was done just for show and horror factor, as all of that stuff was in the house. My daughter was a complete neat freak. Her things had to be completely organized. Her makeup was set up in plastic totes, makeup palettes in one, makeup brushes in the other, eyeliner in one. She did not do anything that would allow that. It's just not her. Everything had a place and everything in its place. She was severely OCD.
What is your favorite memory of your daughter? What's your favorite memory?
Oh, that's hard to pin down. I'm going to say Holly's graduation from high school, when she was standing there holding her little girl and smiling about how proud she was that she was going to be a graduate. And then finding out on graduation night, the principal in the school did not tell her that she graduated with honors until she walked across the stage and got her diploma. And he said, Holly, open this up. He opened it up. She opened it up, and it said, you graduated with honors, sweetheart. Congratulations. Her daughter was 5 weeks old when she graduated. She was put on bed rest before she had Riley, like for a month, and she did all of her schoolwork at home from bed. Her grandmother would pick it up, bring it home. She would fill it out, turn it all back into her grandmother for her grandmother to take in the next night because she was a janitor at the school.
So she worked really hard.
Yes, right. Holly worked really hard. Holly started working when she was 13 years old through the Arkansas Children's Workforce. She worked at a group home for seniors or a senior daycare, and she played games with them, talked with them. And then the next year, she worked at a photo studio or photo lab that also did birthday parties. And Holly worked there. Then her next job was Dairy Queen. Holly was a hard worker from day one. I didn't have money to buy all the things she wanted. She wanted a pair of jeans that were $150 at the time. I told her I'm not paying for jeans that are holy. I'm sorry. Pants.
Holly liked nice things.
Yes. Oh, Holly had great taste. Up until she had her children, Holly would never have shopped a thrift store or secondhand. It all had to come from the mall. That was just Holly. She worked for everything she's ever had. That was just who she was. When she was with Cody, like I said, she was working 2 jobs, one at a bar called Midnight Rodeo and the other at Arby's. And then she was going to school to be a cosmetologist. I was her first victim. When she got on the floor, I went and got my eyebrows waxed. And I honestly think she took a little sadistic pleasure in torturing me. But, you know, that's just...
She's getting you back.
Yeah, because I was a strict mother. I was very strict. I had to know where they were. I had to know who she was with. While she was in school, she was in 6th grade, went with her friend. We allowed her to go spend the night or the weekend with her friend. She ended up in Blue Eye, Missouri at the other girl's grandmother. We had a fit because she was not where we were told she was going to be. We were very strict. I also put a code word for each of my children. If they got in trouble, all they had to do was call with a code word and we would be right there. Now, that I will explain that. I was raped when I was 17. I was at a bar where I should not have been, but I was there with friends. We were having a good time. We were going to leave to go to a party. And these guys said, hey.
I don't mean to interrupt you. When you say that word, just say "ard" because YouTube is like, but it's fine. Go ahead.
But we went.
We're at a bar.
Yeah.
Right.
We went in. We were dancing, having a good time. A friend of ours said, hey, let's go to this party. We said, sure. These 2 guys asked if they could come with. And we said, yeah, you could follow us. They said, well, what if we lose you? I volunteered to ride with them. That was the biggest mistake of my life. They both raped me repeatedly.
So it was important to you to have.
So it was very important with me to have a code word. And back when I was raped, you couldn't go to the police and say, hey, I want to report this.
Yeah.
It was not something you were ridiculed. You were put down. It was just not a good time or place at that time. And that was in the 80s. Wow. 1981.
It's still hard, apparently.
It is.
Sure, yeah.
No, 1980, excuse me.
I mean, it seems it got a little better, but people still have a hard time, you know, reporting that or coming forward with that stuff. And, you know, it's definitely brave of you to even be able to, you know, talk about it, really.
I have come a long way in therapy to get, for years, I blamed myself for what happened. It was all my fault because that's what I was told. That's what people said. Oh, it was all your fault. You were in the wrong place. You shouldn't have been there. You were wearing the wrong clothes. Well, excuse me. I was 17. I should not have been R.
I was in a lot of wrong places at the wrong time when I was 17. You know?
What young
I
girl
definitely
isn't,
was.
okay? Holly and her boyfriend at one point in Valley Springs, his name was Jeremiah. They had gone upstairs. They were sitting on Holly's bed. I heard her door shut. I went up the stairs, opened her door, and hollered, "What are you doing?" He jumped, fell off the bed, and broke his elbow. But I told them, I don't play that game. That's not going to happen under my roof.
Yep.
Holly did not get pregnant with at all until she got with Cody. And then that happened at his mother's house.
Oh, so you couldn't even, there was nothing you could do there.
No. But we told Holly, you will finish school. We will help you with the baby, but you will finish school. Your education is extremely important.
Do you feel comfortable talking about the last messages that, like, I know that was brought up.
Yes, it was. Okay. Tiffy, when we saw them Thursday, Tiffy was showing us her cheer for her cheerleading tryouts that were supposed to be Friday.
And she never went to the cheerleading.
No. I found that out at the memorial. One of the teachers from the school told me she never made it to that. But, okay. I messaged Holly because I tried calling and no answer. I got a message back. Phones were dropped in the puddle. I said, well, did we hear back from the cheerleading? No, they haven't posted that yet. And that was the last thing. She goes, don't worry if you don't hear from us from the weekend. I'm going to dry out the phones. And that was it. That was the last thing. And I turned that over to the sheriff's department on the Monday that they were found. Because now hindsight is 2020. I look back at that messaging going, wait a minute, that's not Holly's wording at all.
Let me just say real quick for somebody who's answering in chat. Janette is the mother of Holly and the grandmother of Michael, Riley, and Tiffany's, who were all victims in this terrible tragedy. She lost a very large part of her family.
Half of my family.
Half, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's just here correcting some misinformation and just speaking about, things from her perspective, because there has been a lot of questions and a lot of people giving her a hard time. Because people are, understandably, people are emotional and upset. It is an emotional case. Oh, I think we lost her. Oh, there she is. It's an emotional case. People are angry, as they should be. But we're trying to show that, she's also human and lost half of her family, her daughter and her grandkids. And legally, there was really nothing she could do. And they did try to, prevent as best as they could, but it was legal.
Just ask this question: do you think that she'd put her daughter and grandchildren on the line if she thought she could save them? No, absolutely. No. What? No. I mean, it's preposterous. It's absolutely.
I think you're muted. Are you muted, Jen? I can't hear you, or maybe she's just really. But also, I mean, you have to take into account every single person I've talked to that had some kind of relationship with Jesse has said that he was literally like a master manipulator. I mean, he was really, even James, his cellmate, said he was a master manipulator. He just, and from Jan's perspective, he had dimmed down his situation to Holly and made it seem like it wasn't as bad as it was. But when they did find out that he was an SO, they did, her sister-in-law did make a call to Henryetta and Okmulgee to tell them, an SO was living there. And they said there's nothing they can do because they were married at this point. And there was really, she had custody. She's an adult. There was nothing that they could do legally. So they found out at the end of January, and the murders happened on the 29th, was it? Yeah. But I just wanted to really point out, like, she's human. She lost half of her family. I think a lot of people get so angry and caught up on a case that they kind of forget that there's people that are real people. You know what I mean? You care so much about solving the case or figuring things out that you forget there's real people tied to this, and it's emotional for them and it's emotional for everybody. And there's a lot of things that were being said that were just misinformation. Like, for instance, that her son wasn't her son, and she was. I think you might have hit the mute button, Jan. Check and see if you hit it. Do you see the microphone? Oh, hit it again. Now try talking.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
yeah, I can hear you. Okay. Yep. So, I wanted to, make sure she could correct all those things. And I know she's been in Facebook groups trying, defending her daughter and her family. And, think about it. If it was your son or daughter and this had happened, obviously Holly made some stupid mistakes. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. But
no, none.
If you have no concrete proof that, no concrete proof that she was complicit in any way, why wouldn't you defend your family? I mean, I will tell you this. I would defend my son no matter what. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I had no concrete proof that he was, complicit in anything, and it was just, could this be? Did he know? What did he know? Whatever. You know what I mean? I would do the same, and I cannot blame her at all for.
How dare any of us think we know better than the family anyway? We're people on the internet who are strangers to this situation, and we can look at it really easily from a stranger perspective and read the papers and read, the notes and look at the pictures. But how dare any of us think we know more than the family? What? I don't understand that. I don't get that. Like, there's a level of respect.
They're strictly vultures looking for any scraps that they can run with. And they're trying to catch me in lies, but I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell nothing but the truth. I made a mistake when I put out what date I found out, and I corrected that. I'm sorry. I had just found out my daughter and my grandchildren were brutally murdered by the man who said he loved them and that he was never going to hurt them. And what did he do? He killed all of them, and he killed 2 other beautiful little girls that did not deserve this. None of them did.
Yep.
They didn't.
Exactly.
And you are not to be held responsible for his sins.
Yeah, like, my point is if you're in groups and things like that, don't keep arguing or trying to tell her that, her kid did this or her kid did that, or she could have done something more, because you don't know. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know, and you don't know what they did or what they tried to do or what they know. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, it breaks.
Well, as I have tried to state, until you live in my shoes and are walking my path, you don't know what you're actually going to do, because you don't. I'm sorry. Holly and I had a code word. The kids and I had a code word. When I saw them Thursday, they were smiling, laughing, happy. Riley was picking on me, calling me Granny. Her name for me was Emma. That has been that way from the time she could talk. So we were picking. She just picked on me. We hugged. I gave her love. I gave each of them hugs. I had my arms on Holly's shoulders talking to them. The code word was never spoken. All Holly had to do was say peanut butter and jelly, and it would have been on like Donkey Kong. I would have stomped him into the ground at that given moment and walked out that school with my kids.
Crazy Italian Lady, if you want to, Crazy Italian Lady said if you need some support tonight, she'll go out and get coffee with you. I think she's local. But Crazy Italian Lady, feel free to message my Facebook page and I can pass it on for you. It's the same as on here. But
I mean, we're finding comfort by talking to another woman here in Westville who lost her daughter about the same time that we lost Holly and the kids. And that's what's helping us to cope and get through, because she's grieving just as hard as we are. She only lost her daughter.
People are always going to say stuff. It's all you just have to do your best to ignore it. I know that it's hard because I wouldn't be like, honestly, it's easy for me to say this because if it was my kid, I probably couldn't ignore it either. You know what I mean?
I've had my friends tell me point blank, stay off of Facebook. You don't want to see this. I'm sorry. That is my daughter, my grandchildren, and I'm going to defend them till my dying breath. My daughter did not and would not harm a child, period. She treated all those children that came to the house just like they were her own. One of the girls that was on the track team with Tiffy, Holly made jackets for the girls. Then her friend Ivy, her birthday was 2 weeks before this happened. Holly hand embroidered a pillowcase for Ivy, because that's the type of person she was. When she was here in Westville, she helped with the floats. She helped with Little Miss Loyalty, making their floats. Holly was involved with the kids no matter what. If they wanted to do a sport, Holly made sure it happened. Even if it cost her financially and she had to go without, she went without for those kids. So anybody who says otherwise can kiss my tuchus.
Oh yeah.
Laugh, but it's and you have every right,
because I didn't want to say the other word.
I know. You can say the other word if you want. You can curse on here, but also I didn't want to forget this too. Do you want to talk about the tracksuit thing?
Yes, Michael James was in his track warm-up suit. They offered it to us at the funeral home along with his boots. They said they're covered in blood. Do you want them? At first, we said yes. And then Michael and I talked about it. And they said, we don't know if we can get the blood out. And at that point, we said, no, we don't want them. And they disposed of them. He was wearing his track warm-ups, his long pants, and his jacket.
Yeah, they said another podcast was saying that that was a lie. I guess because it wasn't on the autopsy report, but it wasn't a lie. He was actually in his track suit, which he did have track practice on Friday. And then Saturday they had regionals, but I believe he was disqualified. So
yes, his grades, he had an F in math, so he couldn't go run. The school in Henryetta, they go week by week. If you fail a class in that week, you're disqualified for the next week's events.
I mean, it was math.
Policy. I have no problem. I hate math.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm trying to think. Did I miss anything?
I'm looking for my notes. Hold on. Um,
I think they recently mentioned people were asking if Holly ever had a drug problem.
No.
Holly never had a drug problem ever.
No. My sister-in-law, not Lynn, but my other sister-in-law, Brandy, was a drug addict. She stole Holly's medications. Holly had had surgery and had to have pain medications. They were in a safe under the bed. Joe told Brandy where they were, and she was supposed to give them to Holly. She never did. Holly was never a drug addict. Yes, Holly did edibles because of her fibromyalgia, but she did have her legal medical marijuana card, so she could legally obtain edibles. She took edibles to help with the migraines that she suffered and the fibromyalgia. Holly suffered severely from fibromyalgia.
gosh.
Yeah. Very clear, not you. What did you say, Lynn? Oh, be very clear that Lynn is not the one who had a drug problem.
No, it was Brandy. Brandy was the biggest drug. She couldn't go to any hospital in our area because she was already on the national alert system to not give her pharmaceuticals.
Oh, I had something on my mind that I wanted to ask, and now I can't remember what it was. Oh my goodness. Oh, I know they were talking about like the witchy way, her thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like dark magic. She was doing
she did holistic. She was doing holistic medications, holistic herbs and things like that. She did research out of witchcraft books that showed herbs and stuff for healing a body, for healing different parts of your soul, things like that. She learned how to do chakra stones.
No dark magic going on. My friend is actually into this stuff, and they do like crystal.
I grew up Wiccan.
And healing. Yes, phentermine was supposedly phentermine was in her system on the autopsy. Phentermine is actually like a weight loss drug, so I suppose she was taking phentermine for weight loss.
She was taking weight loss medication because the anti-anxiety, the antidepressant she was taking made her put on weight. So the doctor put her on the other medication to help combat that.
Yeah. Phentermine is like a stimulant. It's like a very strong caffeine pill, I guess.
Yes.
You could say.
It helps boost your metabolism so you lose weight naturally.
Well, and if she had fibromyalgia, she may have been looking for help for herself, and then thought she could help others with.
Yes.
With what her knowledge, finding something. I mean, that's what I would do. So
she came to me and talked to me because I grew up Wiccan. My mother was Wiccan. It was just family. It was nothing more than family. She wanted to learn about it. Holly was an atheist for years. Didn't believe in God, didn't believe in hell, didn't believe in any of that. Always thought that people deserved a second chance in life. And that's what she gave Jesse. I hate to say that. I hate that man for what he did to my daughter and my grandchildren. But she gave him a second chance. And this is how he repaid her with her kindness by brutally murdering her and my grandchildren.
So you real quick, I know you already said this, but I just want to say this again. Jesse had told Holly a very dimmed down version of what actually happened.
Yes.
Like they were both young, and she wanted him to stop after he made up some story to make it sound way less worse than it was.
Yes.
And now he was a manipulator. I've been seeing some messages and things like that, and even his jailmate, James, said that he was.
Yes, I do want to correct one thing. The other podcast put that he was a level 3 sex offender. No, he was a level 1 sex offender. R was his charge. That's all it stated. R and then level 1. Nothing more than that. Did not say it was a minor. I had no clue
what the story was.
No.
You didn't know. Yeah.
No. I didn't meet Jesse personally until Holly moved out of her house with Joe here in Westville in 2021 when they came here to pick up some of Holly and the kids' clothes that I had washed.
Yeah. And not only that, but she can't prove this, but somebody had messaged Holly and basically told Holly that, I don't know if she pretended to be the girl or whatever, and basically said, it was a big misunderstanding or whatever. So Holly was under the impression that it wasn't as serious as it was.
And that's exactly what she told her father when they sat down and talked. And she left there crying because Holly didn't know all of it. She didn't. She wouldn't have been there if she'd known what he was capable of. Had she known.
Oh, so she didn't even know what the charge was?
No. All she knew it was, as he said, it was an R, and that was all she knew. Okay? She had an uncle with a similar charge, go to prison, did his time, got out, got married, had a family, and now has grandchildren. So, no, she believed in second chances.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I almost forgot? There's a guy in the Facebook groups who is spewing a bunch of misinformation, and he really has no leg to stand on because he even R'd his own daughter, who is actually in the groups, and has come out and said that he moved to Taiwan, so I guess he couldn't get caught. He's claiming that he knows all this stuff and whatever. He is,
and he knows nothing.
He knows nothing. His name, is he still in there under his name?
Yes, he's still under his name on the Facebook page, and I have no problem putting his name out there. He is a pedophile, and he deserves to have his name out there so everybody knows exactly what he is. His name is Jason Philip Baker.
Yeah. And normally I wouldn't be okay with doxing, but he's a pedophile, so it's okay.
Yes.
And he's on the public thing, so I'm sure a lot of people have seen him already. And his own daughter is, went in there and said that he has no room to talk, really. So I figured we'd
run from that out there.
He didn't know Holly at all. The last time he saw Holly, she was pregnant with Riley.
Oh wow!
And he was with a girl that they now have, I think, 5 or 6 children together. One of which is completely paralyzed and handicapped, can't do anything for himself, and his name is Jason Baker Jr. He's in a playpen in his 30s because he can't do anything. He can't lift himself up. He can't feed himself. His mother has to take care of him.
They claim that they kicked him out, but I know someone saw him in there recently, so I'm not really sure.
I saw him in there yesterday.
I saw him as well. Also, did you want to talk about the quilt?
The quilt?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I talked to LaDonna McFadden, Jesse's mother, on Monday that they were found. I got a hold of her on Facebook and asked her, where is Jesse? Where are those girls? And my next question to her is, where are my daughter and my grandchildren? She told me, I don't know anything. I was there Sunday night and dropped a quilt off, but Holly and the kids weren't there. And Jesse told me he was suicidal. Why did she not call the police? If my child said that, I would walk out on the front porch, pull out my phone, and immediately call the police and sit just outside that gate till they showed up. And
by the way, I
she
just
did
took a
not do that.
screenshot. He is in that group.
Yeah.
I
They
just-
lied when they said they kicked him out. But they've done nothing but spew lies anyway.
Was he convicted? Do you know if he was convicted of this
No,
crime?
he was not convicted. The minute that the charges were brought by his daughters, more than one daughter, he fled the country. He took a job overseas in Asia or in China originally, teaching English. But then when he realized he could be deported from England or from China, he went to Taiwan, where there is no extradition and where what he does is legal.
I have seen several people who know him say that that is true, and his own daughter was in there, which I verified. So, and she actually told her story in the group. So,
And I'm very proud of her for standing up and talking the truth about her own father. That's got to be hard for her because that is her father.
Yeah. And all right, so we went over the quilt. Is there anything that I'm missing? Yeah, I talked about the chains in the Walmart bag. They said that the chains weren't the chains and the locks. They didn't know where they were, but there was a receipt and that they weren't in the house. They were in the house. They were in a bag. There was new padlocks that were used, and there was new chains. I believe in the kitchen there was new chains. So he did some. I think there was extra in the bag because he had planned for more people there. That's just my opinion. I don't know for sure, but I do believe that he planned to have more people there, and that's
And as to that eye bolt in the kitchen counter, it was never used because that hole was smooth as butter. If anybody knows anything about wood, when you screw something into it, it's going to leave grooves. There were no grooves. It was smooth as butter. And as for what they found in the bedroom, I'm sorry. My daughter was a girly girl. If it was going to be anything like that, it would have been pink, glittery, and it would have had fancy cups that had
it would have been bedazzled.
Yes, because
with
let's
pink
put it
fluffy
this way.
cuffs.
As Holly's friends will say, she was glitterific. Everything had to have glitter. So that wasn't Holly. That was staged. Heather had been on the phone on a video call with Holly Wednesday. And none of that was in the house. None of it.
Do you know if Holly was on any blood clot medication? Somebody asked if she was on blood clot or medication from a blood clot in her leg or something like that before.
When she went to the doctor, they did foot x-rays because her big toes were turning colors. Or no, her little toes, excuse me. They found a blood clot in her leg. They may have put her on blood clot medication, but I don't know that she had even started it yet because that was just a few days before they were murdered.
So that's the point, and this is like even the mom, even the closest family may not know all of the things. So we have the luxury of looking at, and I say that very air quotey, of looking at the autopsies. And again, you're reading something that was a human being, a mom and a daughter to somebody. And we're looking at it very scientifically and on paper. And you're like, so this was in her system and that was in her system. And why wasn't this done or that done? Like, we need to remember first and foremost that Holly and her children were the victims here. And now Holly's family, and I don't want to dismiss any other families, the Brewsters, the Websters, all of I don't want to.
The Brewsters have been wonderful.
I don't want to dismiss or disrespect anybody. They're all victims, but I don't think anybody should be re-victimized or given a hard time or asked questions. I couldn't imagine going to, and I'm being 100% here, I couldn't imagine going to Mr. Webster and asking the questions that have been asked of you. I couldn't imagine. It's
because they're not asking him the questions. They're not discussing anything. He got a phone call from Jesse. Oh, we'll have your daughter back by 6 o'clock. Well, 7 o'clock, I would have been standing at the door. Where's my daughter?
Right.
And that never happened. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but, you know, I'm tired of being the one being victimized by his family. They're literally calling Holly and me monsters. What did I do? There was nothing that I could do to prevent Jesse from being in that house, short of going out there and killing him myself. Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, legally, there was really nothing you
No. And
that's all she wants people to know is that, you know, they took initiative and sitting her down. I mean, like, hey, you know, this is what we found out. They called the police. They did everything that they could to see if there was some legal way around it, and there wasn't. I mean, you can't just go and kidnap a kid.
You know what I mean? Family, and I'm going to speak for Mrs. Mayo here and say that I'm sure you have your own feelings on Holly and why she didn't do it. I'm sure that's heart-wrenching as well. Like, that's a whole nother, and you don't have to answer that. Do not answer that.
I feel guilty because the fact that I taught her that people deserve second chances. Not everybody deserves a second chance. I'm sorry, but he did not, by far. You know, I've had to deal with a lot of things in my life. I was raped. I was molested by my stepfather from the time that I was 10 years old till I was 15. I have gone.
Well, I mean, you were trying to teach her to be a good person. You know,
I wanted my daughter to be better than I was, and every mother wants that for her child, to have a better life than I did. And it cost her the ultimate price. It cost her life and my baby's lives.
It's not, but don't beat yourself up over that, because all you did was what you were supposed to do as a mother. You know what I mean? You did everything in your power to, you know, do what you could to teach her to be a good person and stuff. And it's not your fault that, you know, she had a bad lapse in judgment. And,
yes, she did.
Who hasn't? Who among us hasn't made bad choices? I know I have.
I have said that from day one. We're human. We make choices, and some of them are going to be bad, but we learn from those. And unfortunately, Holly learned that lesson a little too late because he killed her, and then he killed my grandchildren.
Yeah. And you know, I just hope that everyone, you know, at least can see that, you know, this isn't easy for anyone, and there's human beings, and, you know, behind these Facebook profiles. Grandma Sherry said, princess of bad choices. Same. I've made a lot of bad choices too.
I've made bad choices. We've all made bad choices. It's just life. We learn from those mistakes. But like I said, she learned too late. That was the ultimate price she had to pay. And does it break my heart? It rips my heart out every night when I have to go to sleep, knowing I can't pick up the phone and call her. The other day, I picked up the phone thinking I need to call and see what the kids need for school, and had to come to the realization that they're gone.
No.
It's hard. And anyone who says I made the wrong choices, they're wrong. They're not walking in my shoes. They don't know how I feel, how gut-wrenching I'm doing. I haven't even been able to go deal with any of this. I haven't been able to sit down and talk to a professional because I'm having to put out all these fires that all these people are starting. All the lies that they're spreading about my daughter that they didn't even know. All of her friends have come out and put out what a wonderful person she was, a good mother. The school here in Westville said, hey, She was always there when we needed her. If we needed cupcakes for an event, we could give her 3 hours notice. She'd stop everything and make cupcakes. Riley's 16th birthday, she wanted a horror movie themed party. Holly went out, bought a projector, got chairs, set it all out, learned how to make sugar glass so she could decorate cupcakes with sugar glass with artificial blood on them so that it would fit with the theme that Riley wanted.
And I'll tell you what, I've talked to a lot of people who knew Holly, and I've never heard anyone ever say, a negative thing about her.
She was beautiful inside and out. That's all I've ever heard. That's the first thing. Oh my God, she's so pretty and she's so beautiful on the inside. That's all we've ever heard.
She was wonderful inside. She had the biggest heart for people. She would give you the shirt off her back if that's what you needed, because that's who she was. She defended Joe up and down. She was still taking care of Joe, even though they were divorced. She paid his car insurance. She made sure his phone was working.
Yeah.
She took care of him.
Well, and her kids were kids. I think that speaks volumes too. The kids were great kids.
Yes,
they were active participants of the school.
Yeah.
Good grades. Okay, Michael, I'm not going to give you a hard time on the math thing because I'm not a super math wizard. So, I get that. But
I'm terrible at math. I'll admit that. That's the one thing I wasn't good at.
Right? Like, who's going to give him a hard time on that one? Not this mama. But I'm sitting here watching and I'm listening and I'm trying to process the fact that I can't imagine what waking up and losing a child must be like.
Natalie was actually Holly's coworker, and she said in chat all she talked about was her children.
Oh,
yeah.
So, I just think it's important for people to understand, people are saying, oh, is she complicit? To even people are implying that she could have been involved somehow. But then you have everybody who ever knew her personally would be like, no way. All she cared about was her children. So, I think it's good to explore the other side and be like, well, maybe she was manipulated. Maybe she was fooled. And, like he had done to plenty of other people. Mm-hmm. Everybody who has met this man has said they have been completely fooled by him.
He was fooled by him and convinced that he was a good guy at heart. And that's what she went with. And over the first year of them living in that house, and this is going to choke me up and make me sick, he treated her and the kids like gold. If they wanted to do something, they made it happen. He took them cliff diving. He took them camping. He took them kayaking. All the things Holly and the kids loved to do, he did with them. So that in itself shows you the level.
It appeared on the outside that he was a caring person.
Yes. So. I mean, I did not know him very well because every time we were around, he basically stayed in his office. He didn't come out and talk with us. Nothing. He would stay in his office. Oh, he's working. That was always.
I have a question for you and for Lynn, actually. It just hit me. And this can be something we can talk about offline, but I will tell you, and Lynn can attest to this, that early on, I sent Lynn a message saying, please get Jen out of the Facebook messages, out of the Facebook groups, because it's hard to watch. It really, I want to go to battle for you. So maybe instead of being in those groups that are the negative groups, what if we developed a group that honored Holly the kids with the truth?
I would love to do that.
You could be in control of with your family. You could put out the truth and stay out of that bullshit negativity. And this way you have control of what you would put out. We'll set it up for you and you can.
That's fine. I do have to say one thing. Yes, my family did reach out And yes, we brought Cody and Joe together. And no, we never lied to Joe about Cody. He left Holly. Holly did not leave him. So anyone who believes otherwise, Cody sat with Michael and I at the hotel the night they were found. No, excuse me, not the night they were found. The night OSBI came and shut us down because I had to pay for a hotel room for him and his girlfriend. He sat outside and talking with us and telling us he regretted ever leaving Holly. He left. Holly did not. The apartment was in her name. It was a HUD apartment, yes. But she paid all the bills. She paid everything herself. She took care of it.
Yeah.
Not his family. And I have never once blocked his family from seeing the kids. Judy's on my Facebook page and has been for a long time. She's on my younger daughter's Facebook page. She has access to all the pictures because we've allowed her that. We did ask that Cody not be involved because Michael and Cody, my husband Michael, had issues with Cody, the way he treated Holly towards the end by accusing her of cheating when she was not. I'm sorry, she was not cheating. That was not Holly.
Okay. And oh, I don't know if you want his name wasn't on his birth certificate, right?
No.
Okay.
No, because Holly was like 2 months pregnant when they split up.
Yeah.
She had just found out she was pregnant, and he accused her that that's not my baby. It's got to be my cousin's. Holly wasn't sleeping with his cousin. Was she friends with him? Yes. Did they hang out occasionally? Yes. I see nothing wrong with having friends that are males. Nothing.
Yeah, I don't either.
They can talk. They can have conversations. There was nothing wrong with it. There was never any cheating involved. And Cody's ex-wife, Iris, showed pictures to Holly of Cody and her kids. And Michael James looks just like his other boys.
Yeah. So somebody asked, do you have any thoughts on why you think Jesse would do something like this? Like,
because if he couldn't have Holly, nobody could. If he couldn't have the kids, nobody could. He knew he was going to go back to prison for life this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I found all this out after. So, yes. And OSBI put it to us blatantly. He wanted to be infamous.
Yeah.
And he did. He got what he wanted. But I'm not going to let him take spotlight over my babies. Because he took out 5, I'm going to put it this way. He took out 6 beautiful lights that will never be able to be gotten back. Mm-hmm. Holly and the kids were all wonderful. Ivy and Brittany were beautiful. They were lovely. Michael James loved Ivy. He dated her, I think, 3 times in the 2-year span that they were there. Oh. He loved Ivy. He was best friends with Ivy's brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were all very close.
Yes, those kids were at Holly's house just about every other weekend. And nothing ever happened. Nothing inappropriate ever happened till he snapped, knowing he was going to go to court. And Holly was going to go with him as a character witness because that's who she was. He didn't want her to find out the ugly truth about him, which would have come
because
out.
she was gonna testify for him, right? And I guess he knew she would find out probably all the details.
Oh, she would have found out all the gory details. I didn't find out most of it till after the kids were and her were gone about all the charges that were against him while he was in prison. I didn't know any of that until I read his arrest record that was posted again on that site, which I'm not going to mention the name of because they don't need any more publicity because all they can do is spread lies. But I would like to say one thing. When we were told we could go in the house, we went in, and now we're being accused of taking things. OSBI documented everything that we took out of that house. everything.
Yeah,
The
they
things
made
were,
them unpack everything in the car and documented
yes,
it all. So it's
they
all
took pictures. What gets me is when we went into the house was trashed. So somebody had gone in and completely gone through everything. All of Holly's dresses and shoes were gone. The only thing left there were her slippers. Her flip flops were gone. She had a beautiful pair of flip flops that she bought down in Texas. They weren't there. Riley's dresses weren't there. Tiffany's dress she wore for the choir concert wasn't there. Her shoes weren't there. A lot of Michael James's things weren't there. He had 2 hoverboards that his grandfather bought him in Amarillo when he was working there. Those were gone. Michael James's Xbox was gone. I mean, there were things taken out of that house before we were even allowed to go in. Other people were allowed in that house before we were. Yet I'm being told that I contaminated the crime scene. I wasn't the first one in that house. We were the last ones in that
and
house.
also, everyone has to remember that the landlord was calling her and saying, you have to get all the stuff out by Monday or we're going to throw it in the trash. That they also said that it was not an active crime scene anymore and that they could start emptying. So they were in a panic. They didn't want to lose their precious belongings. You know what I mean? Can you imagine if that's all you had left?
Take everything.
Yeah, imagine if that's all you have left of your family, and you're told you have till Monday to get whatever you can out, or it's getting thrown out. I would be in a panic. I'd be in a panic too. You know, whatever they had started taking out was when OSBI showed up on Saturday. They made them empty everything. They documented everything. I'm pretty sure Lynn even took pictures of everything as she was packing it up because she was so worried that stuff would be missed if it was needed later on. So she even documented everything herself. So they tried to even preserve it as they were cleaning it up, and then OSBI came and just took over. So that's important to know. And I will say before we go, do you want to talk about a little bit about each family member, so everybody what they liked and didn't like and stuff like that, so everybody can get an idea of how your family was. And
Holly was all about her kids, and anything that they wanted to do, she made it happen. She was crafty. She did a wall with Scrabble pieces and had each one of the Scrabble pieces had a letter on it, and she spelled out their names.
Oh, I seen that on the wall in the background. Yeah.
She made different wreaths, a moon wreath and things like that she put on the walls. Holly was crafty. At one point, she found wallpaper that basically looked like rocks with moss on them. She put that up in her living room, and that was her castle.
Oh.
That was who she was. She loved to craft. She loved to do things like that. Riley, oh my God. That beautiful girl was fantastic. She had a big heart. She was lovely. She was loving. She loved art. She loved anime. She was an anime fanatic. She learned how to draw everything. Her aunt Heather took her to an anime convention because one of the ladies that Riley loved was going to be there. And that photo is on Riley's phone, which we can't get. Then Michael James, he loved his video games. He loved football. He loved his track team and cross country team. He was just an all around wonderful, wonderful young man. At Christmas, he did the hot tip challenge, and we videotaped it. where you take that one chip and you eat it and you don't drink
Oh,
anything
yeah.
for 5 minutes. He did that this past Christmas.
My hubby did that too and videotaped it. It
At
was
one
funny.
point, he had snot running down his face, tears running down, but he wasn't going to give up. He waited till the time was up, then he drank milk.
Oh, bless
But
him.
he loved taking things apart and putting them back together. So I could see him growing up to be an engineer. His aunt bought him a motor, a toy motor that you could put together and it would actually work. He put that together on Christmas Day, the year he got it. It didn't take him more than an hour to put it together. And then he took it apart to find out how each piece worked. He was phenomenal.
Lynn asked you to tell him what she found under Michael's mattress.
Candy. He had a stash of candy.
He sounds like my
not
son.
pornos, nothing like that. A normal teenage boy, what are you going to find under his bed at 15 years old? You'd expect to find a Playboy. No, with Michael James, it was candy.
Yeah, my
He
son's
had
the
a
same
stash
thing.
of
I got
candy.
candy stashes all over my house, and he loves taking things and putting them back together. He's like, build zip lines across the room,
and Tiffany, she was, God, that was good. She could have grown up to be a model. She was so beautiful, so tall, so thin. She loved her school. She loved her track team. She was an amazing. She did not find anybody or meet anybody that didn't like her because she wasn't going to allow it to happen. If she thought
and
you were cool, she was going to
do cheerleading tryouts, right? She was excited to do cheerleading.
Yes, she did cheerleading tryouts last year at school and didn't make the team. So she practiced and practiced and practiced. She was going to make the team this year. That was her goal. But then again, last year for the 21-22 school year was her first year in Henryetta. So they didn't really know her. She was in 6th grade. You know, she was on the track team. She was on the cross country team. But nobody really knew who Tiffy was. So it doesn't surprise me she didn't make the team that year. She wasn't on what they quote the popular group yet. But the next year, Tiffany had more friends than you could count. More people.
And she loved cow print, right?
Yes. I have her cow pajamas here that she wore. She had they were, okay, you know at Halloween how they had those animal print pajamas that you could wear as costumes? She had one. It was cow. And when she was a baby, Holly took her trick-or-treating and she was a cow. One year, Tiffy wanted to be a zombie. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you one thing. Her first words, and her daddy was holding her at that time because he was playing zombie games, was, "Ooh, brains, yummy." He about dropped her because she freaked him out. But at 1 year, she wanted to be a zombie for her birthday. Holly made it happen. She got everything, learned how to do it, and did it.
Yeah. I mean, she's obviously a very doting mother.
Was. I mean, her apartment in Fayetteville, all week long, the kids could do whatever they wanted. When they went to their grandpa's for the weekend, I would go over and we would clean the house from top to bottom. And then the next day, everything would have done. You know, everything was done when the kids came back. They could mess their rooms up for the week. And then Saturday, we would clean it. And every Saturday, Holly would make me dinner. We would have her fried chicken and mashed potatoes.
Oh.
But I lived in the same apartment complex she did. One point, Holly was working. It was snowing outside. Riley and the kids, it was just before Christmas. Holly had all the presents hidden in the closet. Joe fell asleep on the sofa. You know, I'm not going to fault him for that. He worked till 4 a.m. I get that. He was tired. The kids took advantage of that situation, snuck in Mommy's room to see if they could find their presents. There was a globe from a light. Holly took the globe down because it was real milky and you really couldn't see the lights real well. She took it down, put it in her closet. Riley stepped on that, shattered it, sliced her foot open.
Oh.
Joe called me in a panic. I walked over there in the snow and ice. We called 911. We had an ambulance come out. He stayed with the other two, and I went to the hospital with Riley. Holly's boss wouldn't let her leave work, so Michael, at that time, lived in Westville. He drove from Westville to pick Riley and I up at the hospital and take us back to her apartment.
Oh.
And Riley did her school Christmas program on crutches because she couldn't walk on her foot.
Oh.
She was in fourth grade when that happened.
Didn't Joe and Holly sneak into your hospital room so you could meet?
That would have been Michael
Tiffany
and Holly. They snuck into the ICU in Savannah, Georgia, when Chippy was a tiny baby because I had pancreatitis, and the hospital told Lynn, "You need to get her family here. She's not going to make it." Well, guess what? I'm here, but I got to see my granddaughter. I got to hold her because I was not there when she was born. I was in Savannah, Georgia, taking care of Lynn because her dad called me and said, "I need you to go so Lynn doesn't lose the kids. Please." I got on a plane. I hadn't seen Lynn since she was 16. I got on a plane, went there, and I was there for over a year taking care of Lynn and her daughters, who I adore with all my heart.
I know you guys absolutely adore each other. I snuck Tiffany up to the ICU in my jacket. Then they stuck her in.
Yeah, they snuck her in. Michael put her in his sweatshirt and brought her into the ICU so I could hold her.
Oh, so she was that little then that you could fit her in her sweatshirt.
She was teeny tiny. That little girl was beautiful, and she was born, if you don't know this, she was born with a hemangioma on her soft spot. It was growing inside and outside. They couldn't do anything till she was a year old. They had to wait till then to be able to go in and remove the hemangioma. She has a beautiful scar, or had a beautiful scar, right here where her soft spot would have been.
Oh, I have one of those scars too. I got hit by a car in high school, and it's a big long line on the back of my head.
Well, Tiffy was she was an angel. She loved her friends. She loved cows. She loved playing games. She loved riding the scooters in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Her grandpa took her there 2 or 3 times, and they rode scooters because it was fun. It cost him money he didn't have, but, our grandchildren were his world. He's always been there for them. When I was in Savannah, the kids, Riley and Michael, were living with Michael in our house in Prairie Grove. Holly was pregnant with Tiffy, so it was easier for the kids to stay with us. Michael and I divorced, yes. We had issues. His mother was the reason why we got married. He never wanted to be married. He wanted kids, but he never wanted to be married. And we've never had a bone about that.
They're basically married, but they're not married.
Yes, when our children got old enough, he and I separated. Our kids were all grown and out of the house. I stayed in Savannah for quite a while. When I came back to Fayetteville, I had been diagnosed with diabetes, and I stayed with Michael in his apartment with his friend Kenny. We split the rent and everything 3 ways. We moved into a house together, and again, we split the rent 3 ways. After that, Michael got his own place. I got my own apartment. We stayed close. We had dates. We went out together. We did things together. We're happier now than when we were married because we don't have that stigmatism and that thing we've got to force ourselves to be. we can just be ourselves with each other.
Hey, however it works, you know.
That's
However,
why
whatever makes you guys happy.
everyone wants to ridicule Holly for getting pregnant with Jesse while she was still married to Joe. They were both completely separate. Joe had his own life, Holly had hers. There is nothing wrong with that. When I separated from my second husband, my son's father, I got pregnant with Holly when Glenn was, I think, 6 months old. And that was after having a miscarriage before Holly. Michael and I lost a baby, and it was a little boy. I was far enough along that they could tell the sex of the baby, but they wouldn't tell me. They told him.
Wow.
And then, I saw nothing wrong. I was legally separated. It took me 3 years to get my divorce. So for it to take what it did for Holly, there's no problem with that. For her talking to, I'm going to just say a-hole, while he was in prison, Holly had family members that had gone to prison. She wrote them, she called them, he called them, or they called her, excuse me. So there was nothing wrong with that. She was a pen pal. Okay, that's fine. I know a lot of people that are pen pals with people in prison.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. So why they want to condemn her for having a relationship with someone, she never had sex with those people. And at one point, even Miss Babb stated that Jesse told her that he and Holly weren't even talking anymore. And then, all of a sudden, they're saying that Holly moved in with him in 2020? That's not true. She did not move from Westville till after the school year ended in 2021.
Yeah.
Point blank.
That happened, it wasn't like she was, well, I mean, she eventually ended up with Jesse, but they were split up when she finally, when he got out and they were together. Pen paling is, pen paling. Maybe, we don't know what was going on in her and Joe's relationship or whatever was going on.
They were having troubles, and I'm just going to leave it at that. They both were not in a good place in their relationship. There was animosity. There was anger. They stayed together for as long as Holly could take it. It just wasn't a good situation. Was he a good dad to the kids? For the most part, yes. I'm not going to say he was a perfect dad, but he was a good dad.
Yeah.
That's that. It's not bad. It's not good. But he was the dad. He was there for the kids. He supported them when they wanted to do sports. Matter of fact, Michael James played football when in Head Start. Michael James was on the team and Joe was one of the coaches. When he went to Westville and played, Michael James terrified the living crap out of all of us because he was out on the field, got hit, and he scorpioned. His cleats hit the back of his helmet and put holes in the helmet. He got up and said, "Hey, let's keep going."
As
Lynn has stated before, Michael James, when they came to see me in the hospital in Savannah, her husband had bought her one of those concrete bird baths. That thing weighed a ton. I couldn't even lift it, and I tried. Michael James was out there. He was 2. Picked that top up and set it on the base.
Unbelievable.
I've got pictures from when he was helping his grandpa put a flooring in the house in Westville at his great-grandmother's house. He was maybe 2, maybe younger, with a hammer hammering deck boards because he wanted to be like his papa and build things.
Yeah.
He helped us. All 3 of those children and Holly helped us when we were working on a house for a prominent lawyer in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and her husband, who was a VP at Tyson. We completely remodeled a home for them. Michael designed it. Holly came out, helped build it, helped remodel. The kids came out, and they were paid to go pick up trash. They didn't have to do that. The owner of the house said, hey, if you guys will go pick it up, I'll pay y'all.
Oh.
I mean,
They were good kids.
They were wonderful kids.
Like amazing.
They were great kids. If there's anything you want to send, like artwork, stuff like that, you want to share that, we can, I can put that stuff up on
apparently Cody put Riley's artwork up on that other site.
Oh, well, you know what?
We sent him pictures because we were trying to give him insight as to who the children were, what they liked, what they were into. And we gave him copies of Riley's artwork. A lot of it was anime. She was still learning how to draw everything. She was usually really good with faces. She started off at 3 years old drawing dresses, wedding dresses that she would wanted to be. Riley wanted to grow up to be a doctor. She was already looking at schools. And she started that in 8th grade here in Westville.
Well, we can put that on your new. We can put that stuff on your new Facebook page.
Yeah. Well, what people don't know is my husband's mother, her grandfather or great grandfather fought in the Battle of San Jacinto in Texas. So my mother-in-law was a daughter of the Republic of Texas, which made Holly a daughter of the Republic of Texas, made Riley and Tiffany daughters of the Republic of Texas, as well as my other daughter, Heather. Riley was going to be able to go to school in Texas for free.
Wow.
She would not have had to pay a dime because that was one of the privileges given, and she would have been one of the last members of the Daughter of the Republic.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's important knowledge. See, now that's important stuff that should be put out there.
Yes, but they don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about the horrible things. Yes, Riley got in trouble. Yes, she did sexting.
We could probably give Cody some grace because he may have been proud of, her artwork and wanted to share it. But, it's just, I don't know why, but there's like morbid curiosity with people. And I think people get all caught up in the details because it's like, something that you don't hear every day.
Yeah.
And they forget, like I said, that there's real people attached to this. And
well, I've had to learn things that no mother should ever have to learn, like the stages of rigor.
I know.
How long it takes to go into rigor, how long it takes to come out of rigor.
You should never have to learn that stuff.
All of that. But nobody wants to talk about what Holly was wearing when she was found. She wasn't.
You want to tell us?
Yes. She had on 2 t-shirts, a black hoodie, a pair of black sweatpants, and a pair of boots. One, Holly didn't own boots, so those had to be Riley's.
Like Ugg boots?
Kind of. They were Walmart brand, but they were similar to the Uggs.
Okay.
But they were just a little black boot. And Holly never owned black boots. She thought boots were ugly. The only boots Holly ever wore was a pair of construction boots that weren't really construction boots because they were high heels. They were high heels. Her daddy found those for her and bought them when we were living in Oklahoma City and gave them to her. So, and even those were not found in the house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All of
now, did they ever find anything like that in the storage container?
No. In her storage, the only thing we found was the family photos that Holly had taken out of frames and put in Ziploc bags for each child. Each child had their own Ziploc bags. Holly and Joe's wedding photos were in a Ziploc bag. their swimming pool, which people are saying, oh, they didn't have a swimming pool. Yes, they did. Holly bought them a swimming pool. I sat and watched them swim in it one day when we were there. The kids were diving for diving buoys at the bottom of the little in the pool because it was deep enough for that. So yes, there was a broken computer and parts, but OSBI had access to it before we did because apparently somebody tried to get into the storage unit and take things out.
Oh.
Before OSBI, I don't know who. I conjecture, and I'm sure you guys can speculate the same as me, but I have no proof as to exactly who it was.
What do you think about how Holly was dressed at the time of her death? Like,
she was dressed for ice cold weather.
Yeah.
It was not something she would have worn. It would have been something she would have thrown on in the middle of the night to go out and help somebody.
Where was her purse found again?
Huh?
Where was her purse found again?
Her purse was found in the Charger.
Isn't that interesting?
But she wasn't in the Charger at that time. He hid the truck. And
yeah,
I'm pretty
wasn't
sure.
Wasn't it across the street, the truck?
Yeah.
Was the truck across the street?
I think so. I don't know for sure exactly where. I was told the neighbor's house. It was hidden behind a neighbor's house. That's what I was told.
We'll be
it looked like from the picture I saw, it looked like this dirt driveway across the street that's still part of the property that Ray owned. So,
right.
And did he ask the neighbor to hide it, or did he ask?
Yes.
Do you know
he asked the neighbor if he could hide the truck there from a family member because he didn't want them knowing that they were home. And that was what the neighbor stated.
That was after Saturday. That was Saturday.
That was Saturday night.
Yeah.
I think he hid the truck so that Ivy's family didn't think he was home and that they were still in McAllister or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So that they wouldn't come and knock on the door or whatever.
Well, like I said, when I talked to Mr. Brewer, and he told me that it was unusual for Jesse to pick up Brittany. It was always Holly.
Yeah.
But that day, which was Saturday, Ivy, Tiffany, and Jesse picked up Brittany. They proceeded to go to the mall. I don't know where that was, if that was in Okmulgee, in Tulsa, what, I don't know. But Holly, Riley, and Michael were not with him. They were not at the mall. Riley, Michael, and Tiffany were not seen. Well, no, Riley, Michael, and Holly were not seen after Thursday night.
Oh.
Honestly, the last time they were seen were by Michael and me. They were not seen after that. Not alive.
Gotcha. So only Jesse, Ivy, Brittany, and Tiffany.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And apparently...
And Jan did ask Lynn to speak for her, for your family.
Yes. I did ask Lynn because I was distraught. I was upset. I needed somebody who was not here to be able to handle things for me. I'm sorry. I went through an emotional breakdown. I had to listen to the coroner tell me that how they died. And with Michael
honestly, James, I wouldn't be able to do it either. I'd be in a daze. I wouldn't even be able to,
With Michael James, they literally said undetermined. I'm sorry, that baby had 2 bullet holes in his head. How is that undetermined?
That makes no sense to me. I have no idea why they would.
Why on Thursday was I put into an interrogation room and not a witness room? Why was I made to face the camera so that he could see every reaction I had? They didn't do that to the Websters. They didn't do that to the Brewers. They only did that to me. They wouldn't even allow Heather to come back there with me.
Oh, wow.
So they kept you alone? Is that? When they told you alone? They didn't.
No. When the medical examiner, I was at Heather's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go outside to talk to them because Heather didn't need to know. She still doesn't need to know how her sister, her nieces, and her nephew died.
How did you find out, Jan?
The sheriff, when they called me Monday night at 10 o'clock at night to tell me, yes, that was my daughter and my grandchildren found in the field with Jesse.
So they first called you and told you that he was missing.
Yes.
With the 2 girls.
Yes. And then I was
but
told
they didn't
not
say
to go
your
to the
kids
house.
Oh.
I was told to go straight to the sheriff's department. I was in Fayetteville, Arkansas, babysitting my other 2 grandchildren at that time.
Oh,
I had to try to keep it together and call Heather to tell her that Holly and the kids were missing. Because at that time, we didn't know they were dead, although the sheriff's department did.
Yeah.
We were lied to.
And they didn't tell you? They didn't tell you till later?
I didn't find out that there were 7 bodies found till Heather and I and her husband Lance were over Lake Eufaula. And it wasn't from the police. It was Facebook.
That's what
7 bodies found, Henryetta, Arkansas, and showed my daughter's house.
Oh my
That's how
God.
she found out, you guys. She found out on Facebook.
Yes.
She wasn't, I need that to process for a minute because that's.
And it was a drone that had been flown over and it showed bodies covered. So they had already.
Yeah, I did see that on WFLA. They had they had footage where you could see. Oh, it was terrible. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're.
What people aren't telling and stating is they weren't originally found by the police. They were found by a drone from a reporter, and that video was out there, and they weren't covered at that time.
Oh,
that's why somebody asked if Holly and the kids were sleeping, because Holly's arms were wrapped around Michael and Tiffany. That's why we know they were staged. It was all staged. There was no blood.
And there's still no definite like a crime scene where it actually happened.
And we'll never know where they were actually killed.
Well,
never.
That's where they were placed.
OCI might uncover it somehow, but right now,
they're not looking.
Yeah.
I told them where to look, and they're not looking.
Yeah, well, all we can hope is that they take it seriously. And it's just crazy.
I've lost faith in them. I've lost faith in the police system, and it's sad because I have been the biggest police supporter ever. One of my mother's best friends was the police chief in El Paso, Texas. And as a matter of fact, for my 18th birthday, he had an officer escort me to school and to every class to make sure I didn't ditch on my 18th birthday.
Oh.
So, I have been friends with police all my life.
Mm-hmm.
I support the police every day here in Westville during the school year. The police have to park out in front of my house to direct traffic for the buses. I go out and give them bottles of water every day because their job is hard enough. To have to sit out there in that heat is ridiculous.
I think a lot of people lost faith, with this case. I think, it was a really eye-opening shocker how some of the stuff was handled. And, I think the one officer said, how they do their compliance checks is like throwing a dart at the wall and seeing where it sticks or something like that. It's like, what?
Well, after the first visit, the initial visit to the house, every 60 days, he was required to go to the Okmulgee Sheriff's Department. They never once did another physical check, And that physical check that they did the first time, he never stepped in the house. He stayed on the front porch, never once stepped in the house. And he listed Holly and the kids living there, which, would that not have thrown red flags to him?
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, I'm gonna wrap it up. If there's anything we can share that you want us to share, if there's anything that you feel you want to correct later, this is always a safe space for you. And
I appreciate that. Thank you.
We feel for you, and we are sorry that you're going through such a hard time, and I hope that we could help you a little bit, and hopefully make people realize that this is hard on you. And
and all the photos that I shared with you, those were all out of Holly's storage unit except for the one in the frame. All the other photos were photos Holly had of her children, and the birth certificate was out of Holly's paperwork that Lynn and my best friend Kathy got for me.
Yeah, and we can definitely do that. Make it like a group, where you can make sure things come out.
Yeah,
I want to debunk everything that they're saying that is lies, and I want people to know that people can be fooled and manipulated, and Holly was. His other victims have said he's a master manipulator. He knows how to control the situation. He did.
Oh, I've heard plenty of people say that about him, so it doesn't, shock me at all, and I believe it. I do. And there's nothing wrong with defending your child and your family, and and feeling like you have to, because it's easy to say just ignore it, but when it's your own child, everybody's gonna, you can't not defend your child. It's your child. I will defend my child always, even if I know he made bad decisions. I'm still gonna help him fix them bad decisions, and whatever.
Like I said, Holly made a bad decision, and that cost her the ultimate price: her life and the lives of her children and two other beautiful little girls.
Yeah.
But don't beat yourself up for this. It is not your fault. And try not to, let people, get to you or, say anything like that. And, we do care about you very much.
Those hearts in the chat for people that are loving.
Everybody's giving you hearts in the chat.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming up and, talking with me and Tia. And guys, check out the Cypher podcast. Tia and LFT, who's in chat too, are a great team, and they have covered this case as well. And we've kind of been doing it like hand in hand. So, I made sure she came up with me. And again, thank you, Jan. Thank you, Lynn. And again, if you need anything, Jan, now, we're in that chat. Just let me know, and I will put it out there for you or correct whatever I have to. I got you, girl. Okay?
Thank you.
And I will back you up with Kate. You have both of our channels to use for whatever you need at your disposal. And like I said, if you want us to create a Facebook page or a group for you, a safe spot where you put out the information that's right, I think, that's safer and better and healthier for your mindset than these others.
That would be wonderful. I'm trying to avoid the other site because all I can do is spread lies and make me look like a monster. I'm not a monster. I'm a grieving mother and grandmother. I have my babies that I keep on my hand and on my neck that I can't take off because I have an anxiety attack if I do. Because they're gone and I can't get them back.
Most people could never imagine what it's like to lose your daughter and 3 grandchildren in such a absolute horrible way. So, just, think about things like that before, you ask somebody, questions that are just, I don't know, some things are
I
just
have not
unnecessary.
answered any of the other podcast questions because they're ridiculous. They're not wanting to talk about Holly. They're wanting to talk about everything but Holly. And then they're trying to portray her and paint her as a monster, which she was not.
Yeah.
She was a victim.
Absolutely.
Well, we're here to support
Jesse
you and your family, whatever.
Yes, he was a true monster.
Mm-hmm.
As I put it, he was a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yep. And well, thank you, Tia, for coming up. And
Thanks for having me.
thank you, my mods, and everybody who helped too. And like I said, Jen, just let us know if you need anything, okay?
I will. Thank you.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye,
Have a great weekend.
Night.
Bye.